Hey guys, I'm Shark from Teamverse again, and today I'm gonna do the Narukami Premium Deck Profile that I promised a long time ago. So let's get started. So our first card is our starter. We won one copy of him. His name is Hero Dragokid. His skill is act on rearguard, rest this unit, your opponent choose one of his or her card from the drop zone and bind. And if your opponent cannot bind, you cannot charge one, and one of your Thunder Strike ability get 3000 power. This is a pretty useful skill, especially in the early game. Also, if you have something like the Tonic Stinger that you're gonna ride, you can just counterblast, get a 5k, then you can rest this unit, counter charge, and 3k. So basically, in case your opponent doesn't have a card from the drop zone, you just get a free counter charge. Its second skill is Thunder Strike 4, act on rearguard. Counterblast 1, put this unit into soul, choose one of your unit, and it gains 3000 power until the end of turn. And then your opponent choose one of his or her rearguard and bind it face up. This is a pretty useful card overall. This is probably the best starter Narukami ever got. So yeah, so let's go to the grade 3. So our main grade 3 is Dragonic Vanquisher Sparky. We run 4 copy of him, of course. His skill is auto on Vanguard, Thunder Strike 4. At the beginning of the ride phase, counter charge 1 or soul charge 1, and then your opponent choose a card from the drop zone and bind it. This is pretty good since you can achieve Thunder Strike 4 very quickly, unless you're playing against a deck that usually doesn't have much drop zone or doesn't have much need for drop zone, so they don't call much card to the drop zone. So that skill is usually pretty helpful. The second skill is auto on Vanguard, counterblast 1 when you G unit strike. You may pay the cost. If you do, your opponent choose a card from his or her drop zone and bind it face up. Then, if your G unit is Thunder Strike ability, then your opponent choose one of his or her rear guard and retire and bind. This is pretty useful since all of your G unit have Thunder Strike, except 2 G unit, which we will be going over when we go to the G unit zone. So he's a pretty useful card. He's usually our main right target, but for the second ride, because our first main right target is our next card. So our main right grade 3 right target for the first ride is Tonic Stinger Dragon. We run 3 copy of him. His skill is auto on Vanguard or rearguard. When placed, counterblast 1 and choose a rearguard from your opponent front row and bind, and this unit get 5000 power until the end of the turn. Second skill is auto when rolled upon, call this card to rearguard and one of your Vanguard get 10,000 power. This is a very handy card since when you ride it, you get an Excel marker, so that increases more of your attack. Work well with V-Buster, Voltage, and even the GB8 to some extent. He is a pretty powerful card since with the new marker, the Excel 2, we can also get an extra draw from the Excel, which pluses you, and also its second skill also plus when you ride Dragonic Vanquisher Sparking on top of this, or if you want you can ride it on top again, because even though some of the card in this deck does need Vanquisher name, all your G unit except 2 card are Vanquisher. So yeah. And the plus 10k doesn't matter if you're gonna stride, but if you're not gonna stride for some weird reason, then I guess 10k does a bit matter. But yeah, so let's go to our last grade 3 in the deck. Our last grade 3 in the deck is Dragonic Descendant. So this, the first skill doesn't really matter because it's the eradicated stuff. So let's go right ahead on the second skill. His second skill is auto on rearguard once per turn. Generation Break 1, counterblast 1, and choose a card from your hand and discard it. At the end of battle, this unit attack a Vanguard. If the attack did not hit, you may pay the cost if you do stand this unit. This is a very good card, especially on your Voltage turn or your GB8 turn, since this card is basically a card. Voltage already give around, let's say 21,000, 24,000 on second strike, so he will be at around 35,000 or around 32,000, which is a powerful beat stick that it can restand, especially if you put it on Excel Circle. So already this is a very powerful card, threatening your opponent. So usually at the time your opponent already knows this card, they will just let it through. But yeah, on GB8 it will be even more scarier. So maybe keep in your hand for GB8, but you don't want to ride this card. So yeah, so let's go into our grade 2 slot. So our first grade 2 is Reckless Dragon. I run 4 copy of him. His skill is when placed, Vanguard or Rearguard auto. Counterblast 1, choose a rearguard in your opponent's front row and bind. And second skill is auto on rearguard when you attack a Vanguard. If your opponent's front row is 1 or less rearguard, this unit gets 3000 power. This is a pretty useful card. The first skill doesn't really come often, since we already have Vanquish's Stride skill and Vanquish's Stride, and already most of the card bind. But it does come up sometime when you're fighting against Excel player. Usually come up is the second skill, which it become a 12k beater. There's still a lot of clan that still run 11k base, for example like Luard or Anj. So it's a pretty handy attacker, and maybe that extra buy in the front row sometime help. So let's go to the next grade 2. So our next grade 2 is Circle Blade of Strong Lightning Grisel. So she's a grade 2 with 9k base, and her skill is auto on rearguard when this unit is attacked or when it is chosen by opponent effect. Your opponent chooses a card from his or her drop zone and bind face up. Second skill is continuous on rearguard Thunderstrike 5. During your turn, this unit gets plus 9000 power. And an act skill, which is Counterblast 1 if you have a Vanguard with Vanquisher. Choose only your opponent rearguard, and until the end of the turn, when this unit attack, it battles the Vanguard and the unit on the chosen rearguard circle. This is pretty handy when the first skill is very handy, of course. Your opponent is probably gonna attack this. Of course, they could play around this by not having drop zone, like let's say in the early game. Basically, when it is targeted, your opponent need to bind something. It's an 18k beater, which it hit all of the force clan number, it's magic number, and also it's it added skill that you can attack another rearguard. Could come up sometime, doesn't really come up much, but could come up sometime. Let's say when you want to take out some of their rearguard, but they cannot be chosen, like resist unit. You can take out one of their important resist unit. It come up sometime, but not really often, because you can also go for the VMAX. So let's go to our next grade 2. So our next grade 2 is Pure Lightning Helena. He's a grade 2 with 9k. His skill is auto on GB1, Thunderstrike 3, Counterblast 1 when this unit is placed on rearguard. If you have a Vanguard with Vanquisher, you draw a card and this unit gets 2k. So it's an 11k attacker. It's okay. That the important part is in the extra draw card. Of course, you can also replace this with another card which is called Shatura, which allow you when hit you can draw a card and bind a card from drop zone. A lot of people might think, oh, that also bind a card from drop zone, isn't that more beneficial? And it's also 11k attacker. Well, I argue that I like the extra draw more. Like the Shatura only activates skill when it hit, and I don't really like on hit skill that much. And that place draw also make you have a chance to set up the few board, and that Thunderstrike 3 is very easy to cheat. And you're always gonna have Vanquisher Vanguard, like most of your stride, like 90% of your stride are the Vanquisher Vanguard. Of course, you can also replace Shatura with the grade 2 just then, the Grisel. But I feel like I like the 18k beater more than Shatura, but it's really up to you guys if you want to run Shatura. But yeah, I prefer him over Shatura. So let's go to the grade 1, shall we? So our first grade 1 is 4 copy of Rising Phoenix. He's a new grade 1 for the V series. He's 8k base, and his skill is when an opponent rearguard is bound during your turn, you may call this card from the drop zone, and this unit gets 3000 power. This is pretty handy, especially in your voltage or GB8 turn, since you can just be called, and it's an 11k attacker. Of course, if you call it in voltage, it would be a bigger attacker. It's just an extra attack, which is very handy. And we also have the Stride Fighter. We own 4 copy of him. I don't really need to explain this. We just use it for the Stride Fighter, unless you might use it for maybe just call it to rear guard, review the Tonic Singer at Draconic Vanguard Sparking, and discard one random card that's not that. You can discard Rising Phoenix if you want, and then you just basically have the combo, right? You have the first Rising, So yeah, so next we also have Smash Boxer Dragon. He's a grade 1 7k. His skill is continuous on rear guard, generation break 1. During a battle, this unit boosts the unit. When done with the Thunder Strike ability, this unit and that unit cannot be chosen by the opponent card, so it cannot be retired, cannot be locked. Pretty good. There's 6 grade 2 that have Thunder Strike ability, so he's pretty handy. And the second skill is what we usually run him for is Thunder Strike 3, Generation Break 1. Put this unit into soul. At the end of this unit boosted. If you have a Vanguard with Vanquisher in card name, you can draw a card and counter charge. This is very good because 9 of your stride are Vanquisher. Yeah. And we also have 2 copy of a grade 2, grade 1, which I don't see a lot of people running, but I like this card since its skill is basically when placed on rear guard, if Thunder Strike 2, you may Soul Blast 1 and draw a card. So even though it's just a 6k base, it helps you with the draw power. Since Narukami doesn't really, Narukami to an extent struggle with hand, since even though it have a quite decent amount of draw card, compared to other clan, it's not that much, and compared to other clan that attack, you barely have anything to guard with, unless you're at the mid game where you have a decent style hand, then yeah, then you would be fine. But in the early game, this deck doesn't really hold up much, and that extra draw really help for that PO plus because you might want to finish PO with voltage, which give a lot of power to the fun though. So yeah, so let's go to the trigger line. So the trigger is pretty explanatory. 8 new crit, 4 draw PG, and 4 heal, and a new one. And we have that 4 crit for the premium collection. So yeah, let's go to the G zone. So our first G unit is Closer Dragon, which is our GP8. We want 1 copy of him. Usually if you go into this, you're probably gonna win anyway. If not, then you're pretty much dead. Its skill is auto on GB8 when this unit is placed on Vanguard. Retire all rear guard from all fighter and bind all cards in the opponent drop zone. And until the end of turn, this unit get continuous on Vanguard. All unit get 2,000 power for each card in the bind zone of all fighter. So this card is probably like the second best GBA in the game. This is very good. The sad thing is, this card does not work with Rising Phoenix because Rising Phoenix is happen when it's bound from rear guard, which this card bound from drop zone. So yeah, so I'm also gonna run 1 copy of Glowgal. Basically the Progenitor Dragon from the Premium Collection, just because his skill is on G zone. If this unit is face up, then you may stride without paying the cost, and this card cannot be turned face up by other card skill. And the second skill is Act, Counter Blast 2, Soul Blast 1. If you do, this unit attack all your opponent unit, and it gains a skill bar when this unit attack hit, you can charge 1. He's actually pretty good. I don't usually go into him, but if I do, that means that your opponent doesn't have any rear guard or any kind of drop zone, which could happen. They could just lock you out with that, and your stride is basically meaningless. So might as well go into something that give you a benefit later on, because it is a free stride after that. So yeah. Also, its second skill come in handy sometimes if your opponent but usually if your opponent have a lot of rear guard, you want to bind this stuff more than just attack them. So yeah, this deck doesn't also already have a consistent counter charge there. So now we have Conquering Serene Dragon, Dragonic Vanquisher V-Buster. We run 4 copy of him. His skill is Act on Vanguard once per turn. Soul Blast 1, choose a face down card with the same name as this unit and turn it face up. Your opponent choose one of his or her rear guard and bind it, and a card from the drop zone and bind him face up. If the number of rear guard you have is more than your opponent, you can choose 3 of your unit and then it gains 3,000 power. Also, you have a continuous on Vanguard, Thunder Generation Break 3, Thunder Strike 7, all of your unit in the front row get 5,000 power, and this unit get +1 critical and +1 drive. This card is just basically a more better version of the premium collection stride, which I say is probably the worst stride of the premium collection. But yeah, so let's go to Conquering Serene Dragon, Draconic Vanquisher Voltage. His skill is act on Vanguard once per turn, choose a face down card, name with Conquering Serene Dragon, Draconic Vanquisher Voltage, and turn face up. Until the end turn, this unit get on Vanguard, auto on Vanguard. When this unit attack hit a Vanguard, your opponent choose one of his or her rear card and retire it. And then you shoot, and then you choose up the two of your opponent card from the drop set and turn and bind them face up. This skill doesn't really go off, but the important part is the second skill is continuous on Vanguard Generation Break 3. During your turn, all your unit in the front row get 3k for each card in the bind zone. This is very good since this gives your beat stick power to all cards in the front row, especially your Descendant, and you also now have Excel Marker, so this is even more powerful. Then we also have, of course, the main boy of probably one of my favorite cards is Draconic Vanquisher VMAX. Auto on Vanguard Generation Break 3, Thunder Strike 5, Counterblast 2. At the end battle of this unit attack a Vanguard, if your opponent has no rear guard, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent Vanguard and deal 1 damage. This doesn't regard how much they damage they already have, this just deal their damage. Second skill is continuous on Vanguard. When this unit attack a Vanguard, choose one of your opponent rear guard for each face-up Vanquisher card in the card name in the G zone, and this unit battle both the Vanguard and the unit chosen in one attack. So if your opponent still have like resist unit that you cannot, you can just attack it with VMAX, which is pretty powerful. So yeah, now we go to the G guard. I'm already behind in schedule of making this video, and this video is making a lot too long. So just gonna put it all together and just say the skill. So we have our flip G guard that I forgot the name is. His skill is basically when placed on G guard, you may flip a card in G guard face up. Of course, you need to have GB1. Then your opponent choose one of their rear guard and bind it. And if you have 2 or less, and if they still have 2 or more rear guard than you, then your opponent choose one of their rear guard and retire it. This is pretty useful since a lot of people, when fighting against you, usually call full board, which means they usually gonna have more rear guard than us. You can also intercept before G guarding this, so you can get more benefit. It's a pretty good G guard, probably one of the best flip G guard. We also have a grade 4 Generation Guard Dragon, which Thunder Strike 3 gain 10k shield. That's pretty useful. 25k shield, and also at the end battle, if the attack did not hit, for each 4 card in the bind zone, you can choose one of their rear guard in the front row that's rested and retired. So this is pretty handy against something like, for example, Gear Next. Let's say their rear guard attack, you can just retire both, and then maybe they don't have enough for the cost. I did this to a Murder Triangle player when they use Tiro and they have 4 rear guard. They attack with 1, I guard, and then attack with this. I Generation Guard into this, and retire both rear guard, and they just throw the Tiro turn. Very good. So it's pretty useful. Of course, it's not gonna work against like restanded like Tidal Assault because they stand right away. We also have G guard. This G guard is not used often. Usually, it's your G guard fodder. But I want 1 copy of him because if you don't have any Thunder Strike, could happen. You can just bind 2 cards from different grade and become a 25k shield, which sometimes happen, rarely, but it could happen. So that's an in case button. But yeah, usually it's just a flip fodder. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. This video really take a lot from me. I'm having a headache right now, and test is coming through, so I'm probably not uploading for some time, maybe, depend. And yeah, this probably like second to last video before I upload, before I go to exam. So yeah, I want to ask if you guys like this format, or do you guys like the format where I just put card down and just talk about it like what I usually do in deck profile, because this does take a lot more effort than what I did. So I need to like do a lot of things. So I want to know, because if you guys don't like this as much as just me putting card down, then I will not do this because this give me headache. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video and see you guys in the next video. Bye!